Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Fellowship of the Rappahannock. My name is Penny, and I'm your service leader today, and I'm delighted to be so for our friend Sara Mackey. She will speak with us about what's next. More on that later. UUFR is a caring community whose mission is to put UU principles into practice through programs that empower spiritual exploration, critical thinking, and social service, and to provide a future home for all generations, spiritual home for all generations. Whoever you are, whomever you love, wherever you are on your spiritual journey, and whatever your life circumstance, you are welcome here. To all who are here this morning in person and via Zoom, welcome home. A special welcome to any first-time visitors. We invite you to stay for coffee and refreshments after the service. Thank you. Announcements are in your bulletin. For gathering today in this sacred space, we light the flame. For the opportunity to be together as a community, to remember the past, to plan for our future, and to be alive in our present. Our opening words today are from Gilda Radner. Life is about not knowing, having to change, taking the moment and making the best of it without knowing what's going to happen next. So it's time for our first song, number 63 in your songbook. Please stand as you are willing and able.
And I'm going to play it through once because we've never heard it. And Sara chose such a beautiful song for the spring, but we've never heard it, so I'm going to play it through once so you have confidence singing loud when it's going to play.
We have youth exiting today. Okay. Belinda, do we have youth exiting today?
No.
Okay. Just checking. All right, joys and concerns. Ours is a welcoming community where we find connection, a spiritual community where we find meaning. Ours is a sharing community where our joys are amplified, a caring community where our sorrows are lessened. We take this moment to reflect on our joys and sorrows and acknowledge the mutual support of our community. If you have a joy or concern, please come up to the microphone to share it with the Zoom attendees so they can hear you. And place a piece of sea glass into the water chalice. If you prefer to not come up here, I can put sea glass into the chalice for you.
I have two intertwined joys this morning. First is that we got together on Saturday and gathered up 9 bags of litter from the surrounding area This is not the most we've ever had, nor is it the least. Well, the last couple of years, it's been running about 7 bags. So I want to acknowledge the efforts of Janet Hemming, who some 5 years ago, I think, asked me if I'd put this together and start this. Sharon Kohler, who sort of expanded on her grounds committee duties to take in the entire neighborhood, and the Kinneys, who usually come out whenever they're in the state. The second one is conjoined with that, is that initially there was a pickup years ago by the Crab Point Civic Association, and then it sort of dwindled away to nothing, and we here at the UU that sort of revived that. But over the years I had the chance to reach out to some people in the community, and they responded very well. In fact, on Saturday, we actually had more members of the Crab Point Civic Association than we had UU members. So it's good to see the community coming out and getting involved, all of us together. Thank you.
I'm here to share the wonderful, news of the wonderful retreat, and particularly the efforts of Molly, who produced Good Graces, which are what you do before meals, sort of based on Girl Scout tunes, and named as a pun on good gracious. Good graces, it says, and good gracious it is. Anyway, and my other news is I took a tumble. RWC does not like people to fall. And I've had my blood pressure vital signs taken 3 times already today. But I am doing well. Thank you. Okay.
I'm on security duty today, so Don's spelling me while I'm here doing this, but a couple of joys and one concern. A joy that our online directory is now operational, and you should have received about 5 o'clock last night, if you are a member or a friend, an invitation to open up your account so that you can get into the online directory, and you can also upload your picture if you would like to, so we have that capability. The other joy is that UUFR is going to be participating in Unity in the Community on May the 4th of this year. The concern is that we are going to be selling the baskets that are woven by the ladies in Uganda as part of that. Unfortunately, though, Catherine, who was going to be my partner in doing this, is going to be trucking off to Zimbabwe. So I am looking for people to help me set up the tent, handle the sales, and take down the tent. That's on Saturday, May the 4th, so if you can help me, I would appreciate it.
As you all know, I'm helping to facilitate the Northern Neck Middle Peninsula Pledge to End Racism. We had 21 people show up on last Tuesday evening. Many of them were from the Black community, and I had a conversation with a gentleman who grew up in the Northern Neck, and he was talking about how joyous it was for him to live within the Black community and how frightening it was for him to interface with the white community as he was growing up. And it was so touching. There was like this little silent tear going down the side of his face. And he said, so many things happened that I just don't want to remember. So that was very powerful, that we were in conversation with each other, and it was all very heartfelt, emotional, loving conversation. So I'm just really pleased with the direction everything's going, and next Tuesday, Angela Blunt, as you know, has visited the fellowship, is coming. And you are welcome to come, even though you haven't been registered. You don't have to register. Many people just show up, and it's been great.
Good morning.
Good morning.
So my joy is that when Jim and Susan moved to North Carolina, I helped dismantle Jim's shaman hut, which of course, if you were part of his congregation, you didn't know about. But if you were one of us, you may have known about the shaman hut. And the new owners didn't want the shaman hut, so I took it apart. And Jim had this wonderful hanging art all around the house, which is now at my house, hanging all around my house. And he found this giant rope in the water that he thought it was a giant snake. It was one of those big shipping ropes that goes from one tree here over my driveway to another tree. And Jim gave me 17 plants, which I planted, and they're growing. So it's just a joy, because now, they've always been part of our community, and they're growing at my house now and hanging around there too.
I have one of those hanging things too.
Sweet, sweet, sweet. So that's just a joy, and I wanted to share that.
May we remember those who have spoken, those they have named, and those we hold in silence in our hearts. I put this piece of sea glass into the water to represent all of our unspoken joys and concerns. Sarah, reading?
Good morning, my dear friends. So good to see you, so good to be with you. My heart is very full for you this morning. The reading that I've brought is by Meg Barnhouse, and some of you may have come across her. She's a UU minister and musician. If you've ever been to GA, you may have come across Meg. And she has a good book of meditations, and this one is called Goat in the Pickup. Some sights in this world embed themselves in memory and encapsulate a truth about life in a way that words just can't. I saw one of those one day when I was driving up Route 64 in the mountains of North Carolina toward the town of Cashiers. I came up fast behind a slow flatbed pickup truck. In the back of the truck was a man holding a goat. The goat was standing stiff-legged, and the man was talking to it. The goat was trying to look over the side of the truck bed, but the scenery whizzing by was no comfort. The man, who had warm brown skin and the clothes of a farmer, kept talking in its ear. Slowly, the goat folded its legs and sat down in the man's lap, lifting its head into the breeze. Eyes closed, it finally relaxed. I could almost hear myself with my next therapy client saying, "Yep, this is a real goat in the back of a pickup truck situation." I recognize that situation. I've been a goat in the back of a pickup truck, heaving itself around mountainous curves, out of place, out of my element, deeply confused, with no helpful experience to help me deal with my predicament. Sometimes there's someone whispering in my ear, just stay calm, sit down, give up, everything's going to be all right. In such situations, the first thing I want to do is keep my feet. I want to stay up, ready to spring into action at a moment's notice. I want to see over the side, even though that only makes things worse. I can't figure out if I'm on my way to a better place with deep grass and better company, or whether I'm being transported to the slaughterhouse. The whole time, the voice is saying, just sit for a while and relax. Surrender to events. Don't try to intervene at this time. Detach yourself from outcomes. I don't know whether the voice is from the spirit of life or the goat meat factory. Eventually, I figure out that there is nothing to be done at this point. My fear isn't helping. My feet can't help. My alertness is working against me. I need to let go until such time as action is possible. I decide to enjoy the nice voice in my ear, to sit down, to gather my thoughts, to worry about it later. I've worked hard to find my place, to find my strength, to surround myself with trusted voices. Every now and then, though, I still find myself in a goat in the pickup truck situation. May I be given the wisdom to know when to sit and just let my ears flap in the breeze.
Our offering words today are from Maya Angelou. When we give cheerfully and accept gratefully, everyone is blessed. I invite you now to give cheerfully, to sustain and strengthen this place, which is sacred to so many of us. Large or small, your offerings are gratefully received. If you are a first-time visitor, please let the basket pit. I'm remiss in not thanking Eric for his music at the beginning. Thank you, Eric. And thank you for that's a lovely song, one of my favorites. For the gifts that we have received and the gifts which we ourselves are, we are truly grateful. Thank you. Our speaker today is Sara Mackey. She's been a friend of UUFR and a regular speaker since the early days, when she was in seminary and UUFR met in the Women's Club. Sara got her Master of Divinity from Union Presbyterian Seminary and went on to work there later Before she went back to the seminary, Sara served Williamsburg UU as Director of Faith Development. She retired right before COVID struck, so instead of fulfilling her ambitious plans for a productive retirement, she became a hermit. Are you still?
I'm still a hermit. I'm a good one.
Sarah's topic today is what's next. What do we do when we don't know what to do? What do we do when we don't know what's going to happen next? Even though we encounter these circumstances often, it's still difficult to rest in the empty space of unknowing. Join us as we wonder together about the challenges of entering new territory. Sarah?
Years ago, I used to babysit for a little girl who would sometimes come and spend the night with me if her parents went out of town. We always made things, did a lot of paper crafts when she was with me. And one time she made a card to give to her parents when they got back. And she asked me for an envelope, which of course I didn't have one, naturally. That was the size of her card. So I got out one of those big pieces of construction paper and I started folding it, and I'd look at her card and fold it again. And she said, "Do you know how to make an envelope?" And I said, "That's what this is going to be. It'll be a construction paper envelope, but when I finish it, it's going to be the right size for your card." And she said, "No, I mean, do you know how to make an envelope, or are you just making an envelope?" I have loved that question for decades, and I have thought about it many times. There have been plenty of times in my life when I didn't know how to do something. I just did it. Sometimes it turned out fine. Sometimes it was a disaster. But always, if I was attentive, I learned something. A few years ago, I told you all about a book that was written by a teacher that my daughter had when she was in elementary school. This is long ago. We're talking a lot about the past today. The book is called World Peace. I'm sorry, I keep making this thing make noises. The book is called World Peace and Other Fourth Grade Achievements, and you all might have it in your library. I don't remember if I brought it here for the library. It's about a game that the teacher created for his fourth grade class, gifted kids. And obviously the objective was to create world peace. There were various roles, imaginary, for the children to take on, and there were about 50 crises that were all interrelated. So if they solved one crisis, it had an effect on other crises that they then had to go and solve. Mr. Hunter, who was the teacher, said that year after year, class after class, the game started the same way. The children were enthusiastic and excited and confident that they could create world peace. And they began with a high level of energy and a whole lot of ideas. They discovered early on that the plans they had didn't work. And before long, they had exhausted all of their ideas. They got discouraged and disheartened, and they didn't know what to do. Mr. Hunter said it was one of the hardest things to watch as a teacher, and yet he learned that that stage was a crucial, even though difficult, part of playing the game. The children had to come to a point where nothing that they thought would work. They had to get to that point. That was when they began to think of new things. They began to try things that they thought wouldn't work. They began to take risks. They began to just do something. Mr. Hunter called the beginning of that stage the empty space. And he said that was where the children's creativity and imagination and problem-solving skills really emerged, or even really began to develop. When they didn't know how to do something, they just did something. These stories are leading up to a connection with you, and you may be wondering just what that is. We're here together many weeks after you all learned that Susan Mosley, that we cared for so much, would be going to North Carolina. I don't know how you're feeling today, collectively and individually, and I don't know how much planning you've done so far. I expect that you've already been in touch with somebody from the UUA, and I'm confident that you're getting support from the UUA. I'm personally sad to lose Susan, although we didn't spend very much time in physical space. Our connection was more electronic. Still, I'll be missing her when I come here. And I'll be missing the potential for time for us to be together. We met here, we met in Richmond in person, and we had some wonderful times together. I'm happy for Susan and Jim and their family, and I know you are too. But even so, you may still be in what Mr. Hunter calls the empty space right now. It's a time of all things new for you as well as for Susan and Jim. And that might not feel like such excellent news. It may feel like you don't know what's going to happen next. You may feel like you don't know how to find a new minister. What I've come to tell you is that's not going to stop you from finding a new minister. I've been in this empty space on a personal level many times before, and although it's a place that I do not like, it's always interesting, and I have found that I learn things that I didn't know before. And I find that help comes when you need help. You all know that. Writer Louis L'Amour, that wrote Westerns, you all might know him, is credited with saying, "There will come a time when you believe that everything is finished. That will be the beginning." You are at a new and unexpected beginning in your life as a fellowship. And today, I'm bringing you the same message that I brought in 2007 when you broke ground for this beautiful building. How many of you were here on that day in 2007? Look at you, look at you. Remember that? Remember that rain? Oh, you all, I'm glad you're here now. You were talking about this building. You didn't even imagine the fellowship hall and the outdoors yet. And I can remember meeting with you in the women's club, and there would be an easel in there right as you came in the door with pictures of what was, and y'all would show me where this was going to be and that was going to be. The joy was so great. Let me find my place. Back then, on that rainy day under the tarp, I told you the story of coming to work at the seminary one morning, and there were a bunch of people in the parking lot, all standing around. There was a hawk right on the roof of somebody's car, just right there in the middle of us, and people were standing around watching. So I kind of crept out because I didn't want to scare it, but it didn't make a bit of difference to that hawk. The hawk wasn't interested. But while we stood there and watched, this mockingbird came up and dive-bombed the hawk, squawking and pecking at its head, and we stood there and said, oh, because we thought the hawk was going to kill the mockingbird. But in fact, that's not what happened. After the mockingbird tormented the hawk for a few minutes, the hawk flew away, flew across the street, and landed on a telephone pole. And that wasn't enough for the mockingbird. The mockingbird followed the hawk and continued to harass it for a while before the mockingbird went away. We assumed that she had a nest somewhere and that she was defending it out of some place of deep courage, or more likely some place of deep instinct. One of the people that was watching said, "That'll preach." And he was right. On that day of groundbreaking, back in 2007, this is what I told you after I told you the story of the hawk and the mockingbird. It is an act of courage to build the first Unitarian Universalist church in the Northern Neck and Middle Peninsula, the first one in 6 counties. It would be so much easier to stay at the women's club. And club is what you would be if you stayed there. It would be so much easier to get together with friends, good food, good conversation, some ritual on Sunday morning, and become your own insulated community. Yet you chose, when you had other choices, you chose to have the conversations, the disagreements, the searching for the right site, the raising of funds, and all the meetings. And that's to say nothing of the physical labor. So you could arrive at that day, the day of the groundbreaking. So you could begin the process of becoming a physical presence in the Northern Neck and Middle Peninsula. Not just a home of your own, but a lighthouse for others in this area, shining out a beacon of invitation and declaration. You've recognized that you are people of privilege in this area, and that privilege requires you to speak out, to establish systems. Speak out for justice, equity, and compassion in the lives of others. Building a church, and I would say now, calling a new minister, is taking a stand. And that stand will be, and already is, anti-racist and anti-oppression. You will stand on the side of love, and that means love for everybody, including LGBTQ plus people. Starting today, I said back then, you are establishing a place from which decades into the future, and look at us 2 decades in the future, you will defend your territory, these 6 counties, from larger and more powerful forces of prejudice and economic injustice and oppression. And who knew in 2007 how strong those forces were going to be today? You won't care how large they are. And you may take stands that look foolish to people that don't know you very well. But this is your place. And Unitarian Universalism is your faith. If years from now you remember the story of the hawk and the mockingbird, please remember the hawk left when the mockingbird challenged him. He didn't fight. He didn't do damage. He flew away. In the face of a threat that was larger and more powerful, the mockingbird's courage paid off. Now, back to the 21st century. I predict that you'll have many conversations about calling a new minister, and there will be inevitable disagreements. You'll manage that. You've done that before. You know how to do it. You know how to work together in the midst of multiple perspectives. You'll discuss what you want, look for what you want, and possibly not find it. You will likely rest in the empty space, regroup, maybe rethink what you want. Eventually, you will come out of the empty space into a new way of being. And you will acknowledge with gratitude what you've learned, what you've endured, how far you've come since those days long ago. Since I first met you in the women's club, when we were setting up chairs for 20 people, and that was a big crowd, that was a full house. You have meant so much to this community and to each other, to me. You have so many gifts to offer. Your time in the empty space will be rich with new learning, and the way will open for you. That will happen. And so may it be.
But it's, and I want to get a copy of that book you're reading.
Oh, okay, it might, May Barnhouse's book,
Yeah, yeah.
okay. I think they're on Amazon, she has several, and they're quite wonderful.
Well, I like that reading, I want to come back to it. This is, yes, the goat in the back of the pickup truck.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you.
Yes, the book is called, did I say that out loud?
We've been there too.
Meg Barnhouse is a good resource.
Perfect timing, Sarah, for your talk, because today is the first meeting of our ministerial search committee. So we have been in touch with UUA. We do have a point person at the Southern region, and we are now beginning that journey. So I wanted everyone to know that it has started.
And I brought my friend with me. I should say my friend came with me. This is my friend Candy. This is my friend Candy Philo, who is a veteran search committee person. So, but you were on a search committee about 100 years ago, so it probably isn't the same thing. But here's somebody to talk to if you need to. Yeah.
Sarah, at the end of the month, we're celebrating 25 years. It's our birthday party, and I wish that I had your script because it would fit so well with our celebration coming up.
I will leave you a copy. I've got an electronic copy. And I expect Tom is going to tell the story that he told me about how you really started with a little thing in the newspaper that said, if you have an interest in Unitarian Universalism, call this number.
I appreciate that we're going to do a search for a minister, but I also recognize and appreciate that we have a lot of wisdom and people that are in the congregation and that come up and speak, and I love that about this community. And I love the fact that in the last search that took, I believe, 20 years for them to find the right person. And we really did find the right person. And in my own search in my life, I took a long time and I found the right person. And I think it really behooves us to be super particular about who we bring in, because the right person makes all the difference.
When I first met Susan, I was so overjoyed. I knew with just a few conversations with Susan that she was going to be right for you. And I was so thrilled. And I knew that was not going to be forever. And I'm especially happy for her daughter, who's going to be glad to have their support. But, and we are veterans of many, many ministerial search committees. And sometimes the exact right person comes, just like you and Susan. And sometimes a perfectly good, decent person comes, and it's just not exact. But you know how to deal with that, and you know how to support, and you know how to support each other, and you know how to support a minister. And the thing is, you all are going to make it work. You're not stupid, you know what to do. You all are going to make it work. And not necessarily the way you envision it. That was a good day.
Was there something you didn't mention? Is this working?
Yes.
Yes.
Something you didn't mention about that day in 2007. We who had come from a previous UU church, in our case, Birmingham, Bloomfield in Michigan, weren't really depending upon a heavenly blessing to make this hall work. And I think the heavens got the message, because we had one heck of a rainfall for the period of time where we were all huddled under a tent. And maybe that was a good sign.
Yes, 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 it was.
Maybe that was our mockingbird.
And do you all remember telling me that you were glad that I got here because sometimes they closed the bridge if the wind was too high? And I said, I'm glad I didn't know that until I got on this side of the bridge, because it was a ferocious day. Yeah, it was full. There were a lot of people I'd never seen before, people from that had been here and moved away. That was some kind of day, you all. And nobody, you imagined this, but nobody imagined at that time all the rest of what's here now. Oh, yeah.
Sarah, thank you. I'm William.
Hello.
And I'm always delighted about how visions, if we hold them lightly, end up being much more than we could have anticipated, as you've just mentioned. I'm also delighted by the fourth grade teacher story, because understanding complexity requires us to move out of the fantasy of the shoulds into the reality of how life operates. And that means that we do need, unless it's a simple thing, which is easy to do, we can take care of it, and we do, those complex things are not simple and we don't have the answer, but collectively, when we get together, magic can occur. And that's what we're looking for. It's not the answer from an expert. We're looking for the collective brainstorming of folks, and things emerge out of that no individual, none of those students with their individual problem solving could have imagined. But we collectively as communities can create the unanticipated unknown. And that becomes the magic of what's actually occurred here. So thank you for those of us who are new, for taking us on that journey to help us understand the foundations that resulted in us being blessed by this place and this space today.
And what you see, I said I wasn't going to talk anymore, and I lied. What you are saying makes me think about what Mr. Hunter said. I think that book might be in the library, I'm not certain. But the children, in the process of playing that game, it changed the way they were in the classroom. Children that had been, short version, children that had been less likable in the classroom became nicer. The way they interacted in the game changed the way they interacted in the classroom. And as you say, the answers didn't come at the beginning. There were a lot of failures before the answers came, but they did create world peace. It's a good book. Okay. Candy's good. Okay.
Thank you, Sarah, for bringing me along with you. And we got here early and I walked around the grounds, and it is lovely grounds. And I just walked past, there's a block out there that, and I counted, there's 24 plaques of people that I assume had been here before. And it made me think, there's at least 24 more people, and the wisdom that they have left, and the love that their hearts have left. And
so I just want to share from being from here, thanking Diana for her group. So I can remember, I can picture the African American man with a tear down his face. Because I was one of the kids that grew up here and in cars with assholes driving that were how we referred to mostly as rednecks. But I wasn't able to drive, and I really didn't talk a lot back then. And but I have found my voice now. But they would drive, and they had this game that they would play, the white guys. And they would be in town, anywhere. And they would have their car, a car. And they would see people that were black, and they would get as close to them as they could, go as fast as they could. Say, and they didn't again, that's one point, when they almost hit somebody. And then there was a mother with children that would be freaked, because it would scare the hell out of them. They would get so close to them and then veer off. It was so awful and terrifying to be in the car, but imagine being a woman with her children in a parking lot, just shopping or whatever, and having a car veer at you with your children. Like that happens here all the time. So when we have people that are brave enough now to come to the meetings, the tear coming down their face, there's a lot of trauma and pain that they have heard from stories and stories of people. I could go on about racism here. I could do a whole day, but it is awful to witness. And I'm just so thankful that we have a place now that not just has one voice, we have all of our voices. We're much louder now. And I have been with people as an adult and say, please choose not to be an asshole. Just choose not to be an asshole. I mean, you kind of have to go in their language, right? And I can. So it's still there. It's the racism here is awful. It is still here. But I do feel like we're making big changes by giving hope to people that probably still don't have hope in some ways with this. And collectively having our voice. Thank you.
We gotta sing what we're gonna build.
standing. The flame is extinguished, but not our hope for the future, our courage in the face of crisis, or the love we share with all the world.
Go out into the world in peace. Have courage. Hold on to what is good. Return no one evil for evil. Strengthen the faint-hearted. Support the weak. Help the suffering. Honor everyone. Love and serve, rejoicing in the power of the Spirit. Do we form circles? Are you all doing that since?
We can.
Okay.
You asked for it, we can do
I'm going
it.
to put a benediction on you. I know since COVID things, are changed. But let's do it. Thank you. Thank you for this. Look how big this circle is. Used to be a little tiny. Yeah. Is everybody in? Everybody in? We got room. Okay. Now, go in peace. May you leave this place knowing that you are good and knowing that you are loved. Take your light and your love away from here and share them with these 6 counties and with this wounded world. And stay safe, my dear friends, until we meet again. Blessed be. Amen. Oh, good to be with you. Thank you so much.
How are you?